Hey, are you using IGR'S as part of your integrated pest management program? Hey, stick around. We're going to be discussing it on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest news, products, and politics from today's leading industry pros, offering you their technical marketing and growth strategies to give you, the pest management professional, that killer edge.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. I'm so excited to be here talking with you this week about IGR'S, Insect Growth Regulators. And if you don't know or aren't familiar with insect growth regulators, let me tell you, they are a great product, a great tool to add to your arsenal as part of your integrated pest management program. I'll tell you why. They're great for many accounts and many applications to help get control. It's a great addition to your baiting program. If you're using roach bait or ant bait or any type of baiting on regular accounts, even in your food accounts, your commercial kitchen accounts, your commercial hotel accounts, any part where you need better control with less pesticide, mosquito misting, for your mosquito barrier sprays and mosquito control, it's an excellent product to add. For your food handling facilities, your flea control, and yes, your ornamental pest control. And why is IGR so effective, and why should you consider adding them? And the reasoning is that as more and more places and people and accounts become more sensitive to pesticides, especially using traditional pesticides that target the nervous system of insects, which can also target the nervous system of people. IGRs have a very low risk and a very low mammalian toxicity because humans don't produce chitin. And chitin is what insects use to make their exoskeletons. They don't have bones. And juvenile hormones, we do not produce juvenile hormones because we don't molt. So therefore, IGRs do not generally affect people or pets. So this is why it's known as probably the third class of insecticide to use, because it does a very good job at controlling pests, even in situations where you might have pesticide resistance to some insecticides. IGRs are growth or insect growth regulators, target the hormones, the enzymes, and the chitin in pests. Okay, and which is what governs the molting or the metamorphosis of insects. They disrupt the life cycle of the pest, preventing it from either the egg hatching or switching over to a pupa, to a larva, and then to an adult. So it usually kills them before they become an adult, which most insecticides probably won't do, because they have a lot of crawling insects would have to crawl before they can be killed by a pesticide, since they have to either walk over it or ingest it. And IGRs work differently. So you can get very effective control, reducing pesticide exposure and getting better control. Let's talk about the three parts. There's the chitin inhibitor. Then there's a juvenile hormone for analogs and mimics. And then there is also the anti-juvenile hormone agents. And we're going to discuss all three, and then we're going to discuss also the products for each one, and even some combination products that are now being developed that work very well. Let's talk about chitin synthesis inhibitor. These work by preventing molting through the development of chitin. What happens in an insect is when it starts to grow, its brain sends off a signal that it needs to produce, chitin, and it needs to move on and create another exoskeleton, whether It creates a molting casing or any other type, even in the chitin that is used to develop the eggs. So the chemical, what it does is it actually prevents it from being able to produce that chitin. And when they produce another exoskeleton, it has a deformity, and it deforms many parts of the insect. Now, disrupting the chitin also reduces the proper development of eggs. So eggs are now exposed. Now, what is a good product for that? Well, there's a product on the market which is actually a combination of two IGRs, which is Tico Pro, and Tico Pro is Novaluron, which is a chitin inhibitor, but it's also pyriproxyfen or pyridine, which is the same active ingredient in NiGard or in Gentrol, which is you know that. Most people are using that. NiGard or Archer, which is another popular one that I use. And this actually is a combination of two insect growth regulators. One controls the juvenile hormones, which tells it it's time to molt, and the other one does the chitin inhibitor. So it's actually a 2-in-1, which works really well. In the case of the juvenile hormone, with as far as what the hormone mimics, the way it works is it interferes with the molting process, which causes premature molting. In other words, the insect isn't ready to molt yet, and what it does is it activates, it mimics a hormone in them that tells them it's time to molt, and they molt before they're capable of actually molting. So what you end up with is an insect that is deformed. Its wings aren't properly developed because they didn't incubate, let's say, in the right amount of time that they needed to in their previous molting stage. So wings are deformed. They can't fly very well. The ovaries will produce infertile eggs in this case. And this is a great product that like NiGard and Archer do a really good job, and also Gentrol. If you're familiar with it, which is one is the pyridine or pyridine, and then the other is the hydroprene, which is Gentrol. Both of them do the same function. Then you have what is known as the anti-juvenile hormone agents. And what it does is it actually blocks the signal to the insect to be able to molt. And as a result, the pupa can't molt and it dies. And it causes an insect to molt prematurely, in non-functional and sterile. And the one that we use for that, which is methoprene, which is used in Precor, is one of the products. And the idea is that you're going to get, again, an immature insect that can't reproduce, can't become an adult, so you don't have the pest problem. Now, one of the things that you need to look at is whether you can use it outside or not. And you read the label and it says it controls, it'll control or it'll work for up to 7 months. Well, not really. Not if it's not in an environment where it's protected. If you put it out in a lawn application, like if you start using methoprene, which is Precor, it works great for fleas, really much only for fleas for indoors. So if you got an indoor flea problem, it works great indoors for a long period of time. But if you put it outside, what happens is it'll photodegrade very quickly within a couple of days. So it's not a good product to use outside. A product to use outside you can use for insects on ornamentals. The Tico Pro works very well outside, and so does the NiGard and the Archer for mosquito control and insect control outside. If you're going to do something inside, also the Gentrol IGR for roach control, all of these will work very well inside. But you're not going to be able. We have a link to an actual good study of the fate of product, the active ingredient in NiGuard in Archer, that shows the fate of it in water, the fate of it in soil, the fate of it in the sun, and how it degrades. And you're going to get really about 2 weeks on the exterior. But in 2 weeks, you manage to totally destroy. You kill the insect because you used it. You can use it in conjunction with an insecticide, and then you use the IGR, which destroys the eggs and the molts. And now you have much better control, especially if you're doing maybe a quarterly spray service, which will give you a lot better control. If you add onto that, you add an adjuvant like an oil or something to help it stick to the leaf, you get much better control. The product will last a lot longer. So you're looking at getting, about 2 weeks control in the sun with a lot of these products. Now, there's very good info that I've put in the notes on a lot of these on the endocrine system of Pest. I found a great article from California, from NCSU, and it's a little course. It's like a 1.5-page course on the endocrine system of insects and how these insects are gonna basically molt and decide to molt, and when they decide to molt, and how the brain works, and how these products help to control it, so you can get an understanding of it. So it, like I said, great addition, low toxicity. It extends basically the service from just controlling the adults, which you do with insecticide, to also controlling the egg, larva, and the pupa. And I think it's a great addition. You can go over to pestgeekpodcast.com and look up the article, which is using IGR as part of your integrated pest management program. And you can also check out the news feed on Twitter at Pest Geek Podcast on Twitter. Hey, folks, it's been a blast. Until next time, have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.